Let's talk urbanization in America in the late 1800s. Okay? Urbanization, the rapid growth of the cities, the rise of the cities, the movement to the cities. However, you want to remember it, I want you to think about people going to these cities. Okay? Urbanization in America in the late 1800s explains to you how we went from a country where most people lived in the rural settings to most people living in cities. How we go from uh, uh, an agrarian lifestyle to the city life. Okay? So fairly easy. Should be able to fly through it. Okay? But we gotta do what we gotta do. Okay? All of it is a part of this puzzle as we keep piecing together the realest history here on the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on something. I am your homeboy first, and if you fuck with me for real, or if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, y'all. Okay, you ain't gonna get this kind of shit nowhere else. This blend of sports, politics, humor, music, all that kind of shit mixed in one-stop shop for black culture. That's here, baby. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button, put all your people on it. Okay, turn on those post notifications. Do it now so you don't miss out on anything. Okay, but let's go ahead and get into it. All right, we ain't gonna take too long on this one. All right, our objectives for this particular section. All right, we're gonna analyze the causes of urban growth in the late 1800s. We're gonna explain how technology improves city life, and we're gonna evaluate how city dwellers solve the problems caused by rapid urban growth. Okay. Again, remember all of this fits into our puzzle. So if you missed any of our segments in realist history from industrialization, go check those out. If you missed last week's segment about immigration during the late 1800s when white folks were the immigrants, make sure you check that out. Okay. But let's keep it moving. All right. Let's go ahead and get into it. These are some of our key terms and people. All right. So, first of all, we got urbanization, the expansion of cities accompanied by an increase in the number of people living in them. Okay. Rural to urban migrant is a person who moves from an agricultural area to a city. Skyscraper, very tall building built with modern materials like steel. Elijah Otis, developer of a safety elevator that made skyscrapers more practical. Mass transit, public transportation systems that carry large numbers of people, suburb residential areas surrounding the city. Frederick Law Olmsted, a landscape engineer who designed Central Park in New York City and parks in other major U.S. cities. And tenement, multi-story building divided into apartments to squeeze in as many families as possible. Okay, so we'll get into those key terms and people and much more. Let's get it, y'all. All right. Our overarching question for this section is, what challenges did city dwellers face and how did they meet them? Okay, let's get into it. City dwellers face the noise, dirt, and crime of the cities, the hardships of factory work, which we talked about in previous sections, and the overcrowded, dangerous conditions of tenements. Governments and city planners try to alleviate dangerous conditions and make cities better, safer places to live. Okay. So in this section, you're going to see two things. You're going to see people moving to the cities, and we're going to try to understand why they did that. But also, we're going to see what these folks went through when they got there and what did the government do to try to make things better for them while they were there. All right. Let's get it. All right. In 1860, most Americans lived in rural areas, with only 16% living in towns or cities with a population of at least 8,000. Okay. That's pre-Civil War, y'all. By 1900, 32% or 15 million Americans lived in cities with populations of more than 50,000. This period was the beginning of an upsurge in American urbanization that brought changes to the country. Okay, again, urbanization meaning motherfuckers moving to the cities. Okay, people moving to the cities. Now, if you really been paying attention, if you've been on your game when it comes to realist history, you already know why they're moving to the cities. They're moving to the cities because that's where the work is. That's the primary reason, I should say. There are other reasons, the pull factors. Remember when I taught y'all that term, okay? Pull factors, things that attract you to a particular place, okay? So there are other pull factors, but the number one pull factor, jobs, okay? America's major cities were manufacturing and transportation centers connected by railway lines. The cities were clustered in the Northeast, on the Pacific coast, and along the waterways of the Midwest. Okay, the Northeast, Pacific coast, and along the waterways of the Midwest, y'all. Water. Human beings are drawn to water, y'all. We are. We're not only just fascinated by it, but of course, water is, I would say, the most important thing on this fucking planet. When these astronauts go to other planets to see if there is life on the planet, the first thing they're looking for is water. Okay, it's vital. Most of your body is made of water. God damn it! So it's vital and useful. Okay, we can use it to transport things. We can use it for hydroelectricity. So it just makes sense that our biggest cities will be located along the coast. And when you get to the interior of our country, along rivers and near these big lakes and shit like the Great Lakes, it just makes sense. And if you're not around some water, hell, your ass was around a railroad. You feel me? Let's go. Life was hard in the cities, but most people preferred them to the country. I think, that still holds true. Workers' children could attend city schools, churches, theaters, social clubs, and museums offered companionship and entertainment. Most city workers were able to enjoy a higher standard of living, and some moved into the growing middle class. Okay. Now, you see, some people still feel that way today, that the city just got more shit going on. There are more theaters, there are more social clubs, more museums, there's more opportunities to meet people and do things. You know what I'm talking about? So you still, I want y'all to think about continuity and change whenever I'm teaching this. I want y'all to think about what has continued from the past and what has changed. Okay. I want y'all to be able to do that. I be pointing out a lot of shit for y'all, but like when you're reading on your own, I want y'all to start thinking like that as well. Let's keep it moving. All right. Many rural to urban migrants moved to cities in the 1890s. All right. Let's look at the first group. It says immigrants, farmers, and migrants from the rural West. They were attracted by land and economic opportunities, y'all. It was hard for farmers to work on rigid schedules in crowded factories, but factories paid wages in cash. So yeah, I've told y'all that it was fucked up in those factories. Okay, it was fucked up. It was fucked up. But guess what? It was fucked up out there in them fields too, y'all. It was. That was fucked up too. So there were many people who chose that life, that hard life in those sweatshops. There were many people that chose that shit over sweating out there in those fields. Okay. Let's talk about black folks, African Americans. The majority of African Americans stayed in southern cities, but African American migrants to northern and western cities paved the way for a much larger migration after World War One. We'll talk about that. That's referring to the Great Migration. Okay, we ain't there yet. We will get there, and we'll talk about that in greater detail. All right. As cities swelled in size, American innovators developed new technologies to improve living conditions. Okay. For instance, the skyscraper. They were steel frame buildings, 10 stories or taller, built because there was no room left on the ground to expand. So you go to these cities like New York, Chicago, okay? Uh, you running out of room. Well, where the fuck we gonna put all these people? So you're running out of room horizontally. So bigger sky's the limit. As your homeboy first said, the sky's unlimited. So there's no limit, just like Master P and them. So you go vertically, skyscrapers. But goddamn, you going up 10 stories and up. That's a lot of stairs, Jack. So here comes safety elevators, invented by Elijah Otis. They made taller buildings more practical, y'all. Okay. Made it practical. Imagine you in one of these skyscrapers, y'all. It ain't no damn elevator. Now, some of y'all might say you're fit as fuck. You might take the stairs intentionally, somebody trying to get your steps in. Some of us who ain't been doing the cardio that we should be doing, we happy for this shit. Yes, we are. Okay. And I know many of us are also happy about this shit right here. Central heating systems, all right, made to carry heat to all parts of a building. So these are innovations, late 1800s, early 1900s. All right. Mass transit reshaped the nation's cities as well. In 1888, Richmond, Virginia started using streetcars powered by overhead electric cables. Within a decade, every major city followed. Electric streetcars were quieter, cleaner, and more efficient than coal driven commuter trains or horse drawn trolleys. Okay. See, with all these people coming in here, you got to have a way to move them. Mass transit. Transit think transportation. Mass think a lot. You got to have a way to move a lot of people. Okay. And this is going to be one way to do it. All right. Traffic congestion often kept streetcars from running on schedule. In 1897, Boston solved this problem by building the nation's first subway system, and New York City followed suit in 1904. Mass transit made it possible for middle and upper class people to move to the suburbs. All right. So let's look at this. All right. For any of y'all that ever been on the subway, that's interesting. I've never been to a city uh like this and been on the subway. You feel me? I imagine it's quite an experience. You feel me? If you have, I'd love to know about that. Again, y'all know I got comments turned off on these segments, just trying to protect us from any misinformation and disinformation that's out there. You feel me? From bots and MAGA motherfuckers trying to goddamn fuck up what we got going on. You feel me? But if you want to converse about realist history, y'all know where to hit me up. All right. But I want y'all to pay attention to the last part of that and think about how this mass transit allowed folks, start leaving the quote unquote inner city, start moving to the suburbs. They can move further away from their jobs. Okay. Suburbs, those areas surrounding a central city. So you from Mississippi like me, so I think about Jackson and then think about its surrounding areas. Now, suburbs does have a connotation of middle and upper class people. So like where I'm from in Canton is not considered a goddamn suburb because most of the people who live here are not middle and upper class people. You feel me? My city is historically a city of struggle. You understand? you know, we coming up, we coming up, we gonna make it. You feel me? But somewhere like Madison, somewhere like Flowood, I'm talking about, these places are considered suburbs. Now, of course, today motherfuckers get back and forth to their jobs in Jackson by the interstate. We ain't there yet. Okay. We ain't there yet. But right now we're talking about the innovation of the subway, and I bet you that was very transformative at that time. Let's go. As cities grew, planners began to use zoning to designate certain parts of the city for certain functions. Cities set aside space for heavy industry, financial institutions, homes, and public spaces such as libraries and government buildings. But parks were also important in cities, and Frederick Law Olmsted designed many well known ones, such as New York City's Central Park. Y'all have heard of Central Park. I know they have been back in the news lately due to the election of Donald Trump. And y'all know, they tried to push for the quote unquote Central Park Five to get executed for a crime that they didn't commit, you know. And y'all, many of y'all saw that movie or that, was it a series on Netflix? I don't know. I didn't watch it. I know about the incident. I've read about it. I didn't need to watch this shit. But when they see us, I think when most people see Central Park, they think of that. Okay. Uh, but if you somebody who's been to Central Park, I imagine that it's beautiful. Okay. But just think of city planning. This slide is just talking about city planning, y'all, and how they would designate different parts of the city for various shit. So when you're riding through a city, I want you to kind of pay attention to that shit. To my pay attention to what district that you're in. Like, what's the predominant thing you see in this part of town? Okay, and that goes back to city planning. Let's go, y'all. All right, many neighborhoods became overcrowded. Some poor workers lived in tenements, which usually were unhealthy and dangerous because they had few windows and little sanitation. Okay, take a look at this, y'all. Take a look at this now. Remember, a tenement, these apartments, usually one room, where you and your family cramped up in that bitch. Okay. And as the slide says, unhealthy, it's dangerous. You're lucky to have a fucking window. You sharing a toilet with the rest of the motherfuckers on the floor. Some folks didn't give a shit. Hell, if you were lucky enough to have a window here, you just take a shit in there and throw it out the window. If you're lucky to have a window. Imagine being in a one-room apartment with your people. Fellas, how you and your woman finna get it on? Youngins, how the fuck you finna have some privacy away from your parents? This shit different, Jack. This was life in the tenements. And you be living like this while having a full-time job, while goddamn working 12 to 16 hours a day in a factory. You come home to this shit. This was life during the Gilded Age. I'm gonna get to that and explain why we called it the Gilded Age. But this was life in the industrial age, y'all. Same time period, late 1800s. At this time, cities had filthy, unpaved streets and sanitation problems, conditions perfect for breeding epidemics. Okay, just nasty. To solve these problems, governments and city planners tried to regulate housing. Look at that word, regulate. You motherfuckers try to act like that's a dirty word today. Okay. Governments and city planners tried to regulate housing, sanitation, sewers, and public health. They began to take water from clean reservoirs and to use water filtration systems. So look at that. See, today you got motherfuckers like Trump and these conservatives, and they want to act like government is just such a terrible thing. But look at this. Look at what I just read to you. You had all these folks flooding to these cities, trying to get these jobs, trying to pursue a better life and shit like that. But it was filthy. It was nasty, y'all. The streets were unpaved. There was lack of sanitation. Diseases just festering. So the government had to step in and regulate some shit. Government had to put some rules in place and say, hey man, if you're gonna build an apartment complex, how about get these motherfuckers a window? How about give every resident a damn toilet? How about that? Let's do a sewage system. Let's get somebody picking up the trash around this bitch. Let's keep these streets clean. There's a lot of things that government does that we take for granted. You feel me? There's a lot of things until the government don't do that shit. Like in Jacktown, when the government wasn't picking up that damn trash shit, motherfucker was hot. Motherfucker was hot. Government can do good if we support the government. The government is the people. We have to be good. We have to know what the fuck we got going on. We have to be willing to invest with our tax dollars in our communities. If we want better housing, better sanitation, better sewage systems, better public health, that's what we got to do, man. That's what we got to do. Let's move. Cities responded to the threats of fire and crime with professional firefighting teams, uniformed city police forces, and new electric streetlights. However, the police were unable to overcome the challenge of conflicts between different racial groups, classes, and neighborhoods. Okay. So these cities were a motherfucker now. All right. So you had a lot of these motherfuckers try to, get police forces, try to get firefighters and stuff like that. But having all these different kinds of people, and not only just racial groups, all these different ethnicities. I could eat white folk were beefing too on some ethnic shit. Well, we Irish immigrants and we don't fuck with you Poles, and we Poles and we don't fuck with you Russians, and we Russians and we don't fuck with you Italians and all that kind of shit. And we Germans and we don't fuck with none of y'all. And so they had their own little gangs and shit. You feel me? So while life was slower in the rural setting, and lack of opportunities in the rural setting, moving to the cities had its benefits, but it also had its downside as well. You feel me? But that's it, y'all. We knocked out another one. Okay, let's go back real quick. And review some of our key terms. We talked about urbanization. I just want y'all to think about motherfuckers moving to the cities. A lot of people moving to the cities, rapid growth of the cities, okay? Rural to urban migrant. That's just somebody that moves from the country to the city, you feel me? Skyscraper. Just think of a very tall building, okay? Y'all see this shit in these big ass cities. Think about the Twin Towers, okay? I know they no longer stand up, but you can visualize that. Y'all remember that, talking about the Twin Towers. Elijah Otis. When you get on one of these elevators and you see Otis on that motherfucking elevator, think about Elijah Otis, okay? And the safety elevator. All right. Mass transit. Just think about all these motherfuckers having to be transported in these cities. There are so many people, they had to figure out a way to transport a large number of people. You feel me? Suburb. Just think about those middle class and slash upper class towns and cities surrounding a central city. Okay. Frederick Law Olmsted. You think about him, just think about motherfucker design these parks and shit in these cities. Hey, that's very important. Think about New York City, nicknamed the concrete jungle. Okay. So not as much vegetation as you would have in the countryside. So a park gives city dwellers somewhere to go, what I'm talking about, and experience some vegetation and some of the great outdoors. You understand? So that's very important in a city. All right. And tenement. Just think of fucked up ass projects. Like I don't even want y'all. We not to projects yet, but I think that puts you in the mind of it. You feel me? These were multi-story buildings, these low income shits, one room. So even the projects of today are better than this shit I'm describing. Like Just real fucked up. And you had this family that had to squeeze into that shit. And what was so fucked up about it is these folks more than likely had full-time jobs. And that's what they were coming home to. But that was life in America, in the cities, in the late 1800s. Okay? Hope y'all enjoyed it. Make sure you go back and watch all segments of Realist History if you haven't, so you can catch up. You feel me? And I'm gonna keep doing these. These get me my fewest views. But I'm doing this shit on some mission work. You know what I'm talking about? Because clearly, people need it. You feel me? And so I'm gonna keep doing my part to fight back against the bullshit that just happened in November. You understand? But appreciate y'all for watching Realist History on the realest, most entertaining show in the game. Put it on some.
Thank you so much for watching my daddy's YouTube channel. Make sure you like, share, and turn on your post notifications. Okay, how do I do it?